People say that the refining industry and the petrochemical industry are just dangerous. And there are a lot of industries that are dangerous, but the jobs can still be done safely.
Meet Brent Coon, by nature a Texan thrill seeker, by profession one of America's super lawyers. He's about to swoop on BP.
BP has routinely taken more risk and has routinely acted worse than their competitors with respect to safety issues.
While BP's value's been in free fall, on the US Gulf Coast, nobody's shedding tears for the shareholders. On the ground, the concerns are more personal.
Now we have hundreds of thousands and potentially millions of people that are directly impacted from that, economically, financially, and for some of the families from the loss of loved ones.
People can't pay their bills, they can't feed their kids, and let me tell you, the tempers, the frustration is boiling.
Every day is anxiety. You get up, you don't know what you're going to do, you have no plan, you got to support for your family. How am I going to support my family right now?
For BP, this is the reckoning. Just how much compensation will they have to pay out? Is the $20 billion they've set aside going to be anything like enough? And these are the calculations. How much pollution in the sea and on the land have they caused? And how many livelihoods have they scuppered or sunk? And then there's the criminal investigation. Now, the people round these parts are well aware that oil drilling is a risky business, but BP stands accused of unprecedented levels of recklessness. July is the peak of the tourist season on Dauphin Island. Not this year. The Alabama coastline's now decorated with floating booms, a defence against the oil. All along the Gulf states, it's the same. James Main from Florida runs charter boats to take people diving and fishing. But with many fishing grounds closed, the tourists stopped coming.
I have nothing on my schedule. I have 5 letters of cancellation due to oil impact anticipation. And it just happened right in the middle of everything that I usually do.
With their normal work suspended, some have found employment in the cleanup. Others are reliant on the uncertainty of monthly compensation checks from BP. Next month, an independent assessor starts dispersing BP's special account. But with everyone from oil workers to hotel waiters lodging claims, where does he draw the line?
With the band, we play with Motley Crue. We do a lot of headliner shows.
Yeah. Brent Coon's made a fortune out of suing BP over past transgressions. Now he has 200 clients claiming compensation for the Gulf spill. He says the $20 billion BP set aside for payouts and the cleanup won't be nearly enough.
If it was my ability to take the monies that BP caused harm to, I would pay everybody that lost $1 and pay that $1 back. If they lost money, BP owes them.
You could break BP like that, couldn't you?
I wouldn't be breaking BP. BP broke BP. Peter, the reality is that BP has known for many years that they cut corners that they shouldn't cut.
We actually take some of this, and then we take tissues.
Back at Dauphin Island in the Sea Laboratory, they're studying the effects of the spill. All information which will help set the payout.
Since this is at the surface, and we know that some of the oil is at the surface, the interaction between the sargassum and the oil, how is that going to affect this little ecological community that floats out there in the Gulf of Mexico?
There are gas platforms on the horizon, but the scientists here say they've never been a problem. The oil gush on the seabed is a different matter, and BP's efforts to disperse the spill may have made things worse.
The interaction of dispersed oil and the molecules of oil floating somewhere in the water column is a question that will be answered now, today, tomorrow, and probably 10 years from now as we look at how that moves through the ecosystem.
It's the dispersants that seem to worry you more than the actual oil.
The science behind that is unknown. So whether it was a good idea or a bad idea, why use the Gulf of Mexico as an experiment?
Because BP used dispersants, its critics say the true scale of the leak can never be measured. But it could be around 200 million gallons, an exponential increase on initial estimates.
Almost 6,000 vessels. These are thousands of local shrimp and fishing boats, organized into task forces and strike teams.
After howlers from their British CEO, BP's advertising to America that they do understand and are making things right.
We've set out more than 8 million feet of boom to protect the shoreline. I grew up on the Gulf Coast, and I love these waters. We can't keep all the oil from coming ashore, but I'm going to do everything I can to stop it.
At a public meeting in Plaquemine Parish, south of New Orleans, the locals are unconvinced. The larger-than-life parish president is Billy Nungesser. He's been dealing with BP every day and says they're clueless.
We've spent more time fighting BP than fighting the oil.
They say they're putting money into the whole Gulf region. They're very keen to help. They realise they want to make things right.
I'm going to make you a promise here today. When this is over, I'm going to guarantee you that if they give me everything that was spent, I'll show you where they wasted more money than they spent cleaning up this Gulf.
Wasted money on?
On everything. On consultants, on setting up 1,500-man land camps, on the crews that are hiding out in the marsh, on helicopter flights to find out what we're doing instead of cleaning up the marsh, on everything.
Before oil, Louisiana was the Cajun state, known for its fishing and, famously, its oysters. But the oyster beds have been put in peril by the spill. Companies are closing. Supplies at this plant are down 50%, and they've laid off staff.
Some of us, that's all we ever did was fish.
The oystermen in Plaquemine Parish say they're struggling to get by on the emergency payments they've had from BP. You're oyster fishing now, and there's nothing going at all?
No, nothing. Nothing. It's a disaster. I'm looking for shit to go up, and it's going down.
Usually this is a busy place, a lot of boats moving around.
At the marina, Vlaho Mayovich's oyster boats are laid up.
For me, the summer is the best time for me to work.
But these things are turning up dead?
They turn up dead. I can't go out there and work. I can go out. Last time I found 2 oysters out there when I went out last time.
The irony, he says, once again, it's the clean-up that's done the damage. You must be pretty devastated by what's happened.
Yes, and the thing is, they're trying to keep the oil out with the fresh water, and it's killing everything. And the oil comes in there, it's going to kill everything too. So it's like a double-edged sword.
So the attempts to flush the oil are threatening his livelihood.
There's no light end of this tunnel in my line of work right now, what I'm realizing.
Since the spill, the very existence of the oil industry here is being challenged. These dry docked rigs normally operate in shallow water, but tougher regulations have almost brought drilling to a halt. President Obama's temporary moratorium on deep-water rigs has put thousands out of work. The legacy of decades of oil production has created a wave of remorse here in Louisiana and in parts of the neighbouring states. Now, America's presidents may bemoan the country's addiction to oil, but it's the people living here who have the real oil dependency. Daily, they're living with the consequences. The Deepwater Horizon disaster, which killed 11 oil workers, was no isolated incident for BP. In the past 5 years, their operations have accounted for 97% of all the industry's safety violations in America. From broken platforms in the Gulf to ruptured pipelines in Alaska, BP's been the offender. Worst of all was the explosion at Texas City in 2005, where 15 died. After that, BP was fined a record $50 million for criminal conduct. A further $87 million fine followed last year because BP still hadn't met safety conditions. Brent Coon beat BP over Texas City. Now he's going into battle again.
They have a bad criminal record. They have criminal indictments and convictions all over the place. That's unfathomable that companies like BP would continue to operate like this when they have criminal convictions.
In response to Brent Coon's comments, BP told us their offshore drilling safety record had been better than average until Deepwater Horizon. And on land and sea, they're improving safety.
Thank you so much.
Even former friends are abandoning BP. Billy Nungesser is a Republican politician and lifetime advocate of the oil industry. He defends the other big companies, but his faith in BP has run out. You don't trust BP?
Do you? I mean, guess what? Take a poll. I'll bet you 90% of the people don't trust them.
While BP's CEO's taken the high jump with his golden parachute, the skydiving super lawyer predicts for some at BP there could be worse to come. He believes the Department of Justice investigation will see executives end up in jail. You think that's a lesson for this time, then? People should go to jail this time, you say?
Yes, sir. And I think that people probably will this time. We already have people taking the Fifth Amendment. They know that the DOJ is coming this time.
Well, now it's time for a tequila shot. How you doing,